and then you'll be able to share it to the group.
Cool.
Yes, ma'am. You feeling
This
good?
is so exciting.
Really?
I am. I'm feeling great.
All right, that's what it is. Word. All right, so we're about to go live. Bop, bop. So, calm down. Right. Bop, bop, bop. What is good with y'all tonight? It's your man Donald King. He's back with Candace.
Buenos dias.
She said Buenos dias. Yo, man, it's like all of my people, my homeboys is hitting me out there like, hey man, y'all got good on-screen chemistry. And I'm like, word? And they're like, yeah, it's like you remind us of Regis and Kathy Lee. And I said, who? And they said, Mike and Maddie. I said, what? And then they were like, Kelly and Michael. I said,
Kelly and
who?
Michael.
And they were like, Howard Stern and Robin. And I was like, oh, okay. I see what you're talking about. All right, touche. I'm Robin.
It's another tipsy cast.
Touche. It's not tipsy yet. But yeah, no, it's like it can be though. It's like the night is young. I'm not psychic. I can't see the future.
Happy Friday.
Happy Friday to all of y'all, man. It's like, again, last time we got a chance to do this, man, people were very impressed by Candace's presence, and, I felt that it brought some balance to what I do, and I enjoyed her presence. You awesome. Yeah. That's what I'm talking about. So the reason why I'm shooting this podcast is because, and the reason why we're doing a special podcast today is because on my last podcast, I got into the subject of justice and why reality doesn't recognize your sense of justice, why reality does not consider or conform to what you think is fair, irrespective of how strongly you feel. All right? Now, see, my brother hit me up. He hit me up earlier today, and he hit me up a couple of days ago, and I'd actually made a promise to him to speak on the subject of separation anxiety. And it's funny because it sort of segues into trauma, and we're going to talk about that in addition to another subject. One of my buddies hit me up asking me, my thoughts on his experiences with interacting with and talking to God, and I want to get into that as well. But Candace also had another subject she wanted to talk about, and that was
religion and authority.
Religion and authority.
And how to cultivate your own sense of spirituality.
How to cultivate your own sense of spirituality. Now, the funny thing about this is all of these subjects intertwine. All of them intertwine. And I'm going to get into it in this podcast, and obviously with Candace's assistance, hopefully I dial in well enough, and we're going to read these principles in real time. But I want to start with my brother's query about separation anxiety. All right, separation anxiety, that's a tricky one because it traces back to trauma. If you recall from my podcast about trauma, I was basically describing trauma as not necessarily the episode or the experience wherein a person is psychologically injured or damaged, but instead as being the resultant feeling of being stripped of power, the loss of the ability to do and or impose will onto the context. Basically, whenever you're dealing with trauma, you're dealing with a person being afraid of becoming powerless. The reason why it's important to understand that is because so many relationships are based on trauma. People don't have relationships with individuals. They have relationships with people's trauma.
That's heavy. Trauma bonding.
Trauma bonding sucks, but that's what most people do. Oftentimes in my work, I describe the dynamic between partners entering into relationships. Most relationships are not based in mutualism. Most people don't go into the relationship thinking about the system of interactions that emerges between them, but instead they tend to focus on roles within the relationship. So it's a competition for dominance. When you compete against someone, what you're trying to do is essentially dominate them. You're trying to subdue them and make them malleable and exploitable. And you see, the reason why you do this is because if someone is malleable and exploitable, then and or they're controllable, then they're perceivably safe. Things that you can control seem safe. And most people go into situations with others trying to control them because control is how they feel safe. And it's not their minds that are doing the thinking, it's their trauma doing the thinking. Whenever you're in an abusive relationship, any type of abusive relationship, what you're dealing with is you're not dealing with the actual person, you're dealing with their trauma. And see, the thing about trauma is it doesn't matter how good you are to it. It doesn't matter how potent you are as an individual. At the end of the day, the trauma will create its own story about you and make agreements with itself about you that you have no power to affect.
The traumatized mind seems to be always seeking some type of safety.
Safety. And safety comes in a variety of in a variety of forms. So a lot of times it comes in the form of validation and assurance. Other times safety is in the form of just being something that a person can transfer their anger and frustration into.
Being old faithful.
Being old faithful, being that lightning rod, being the emotional punching bag. I've been in too many relationships where hurt people see me as a safe space to release their aggression so that they can feel some measure of power. And what I'm dealing with at that point is never the person. What I'm dealing with is their trauma.
Such a disempowered approach and stance to operate from, especially in something that requires so much bravery as love.
Right.
It seems like the traumatized mind is just seeking to protect the heart, but I've been kind of pondering on this too. The heart doesn't need the mind to protect it. The heart is strong, period. It can handle whatever.
Nice.
It's the mind that tends to grapple with ups and downs and wants to try to transfer its skewed perceptions onto everything else.
Well said. That's why I'm glad I brought you in on this motherfucker. Gosh, that's exactly the point. It's a lot of people out here trying to think their way through things that only the heart has the power to resolve for them. And by heart, I mean, I would say that's the place from whence bravery derives. You can think your way out of a lot of situations, but ultimately it is your internal resolve that makes you power through things, and that is what I refer to as heart. And
good definition.
thank you kindly. A lot of people, they are what I refer to as being cowardly. Now, when I refer to cowardice and cowardly people, I'm never saying it from a place of judgment, seeing as I was a former cowardly person and or suffer from cowardice. Cowardice and narcissism, they're one and the same. It's a fear, an afraidness to face reality. So either you barricade yourself within the identity and within all of your bravado and your chest thumping, or you just hide behind aggression and seek to transfer your feelings of ineptitude and uncertainty and rage into others. So if you're a passive coward, then you're hiding from reality inside of an identity and inside of stories. If you're an aggressive coward, then you're trying to force everyone in reality to fit with and conform to the story you tell yourself about the world around you, and you're placing value within it. But ultimately, a cowardly person is one who is afraid to face reality. The reason why it's important to understand that concept is because when you're dealing with things like separation anxiety is based in cowardice. It's based in a fear to face reality alone. So oftentimes people have this tendency to cling to things and cling to people who are bad for them because they're afraid of facing reality without something to shield them from uncertainty. They're afraid to face reality without something to shield them from feelings of insecurity. And it all ties in together. Trauma and separation anxiety. If trauma is the feeling of powerless, if trauma is the fear of feeling or becoming powerless, then separation anxiety is necessarily a different form of trauma. I'm afraid of being disempowered without something here to define me and or something here to affix myself to towards making me feel grounded in reality, towards making me feel as though I am not standing alone.
Because that's just too much to bear.
It is.
Such a disempowered way to operate again.
Yeah, it is a disempowered way to operate, and that's the reason why it takes brave people to step up and show people how to be brave. Like, even you deciding to shoot these podcasts with me. This is bravery on your part. It takes brave people to show people how to be brave. Period. Yeah, there are disempowered people, so sometimes you have to figure out how to help them find their sense of power. Not with the same tools. So as I was talking to my brother a little bit earlier about this, troubles that he goes through in his relationship. This is something that this is a trope I like to, or not a trope, but this is an example that I like to use towards helping people understand what it's like to be in a relationship with a emotionally damaged person and or traumatized person. Mm-hmm. Imagine you come across a mother fox who has her leg trapped in a bear trap and snapped the bone and she's bleeding out and she's in pain. Now, you look over and you see her litter of pups over there. And you know that all of those pups depend on their mother for survival. So you go over and you're like, how am I going to free this mama fox's leg from the bear trap so that we can get her mended and she can take care of her cubs? Then and there you have to make a decision. I know that in order to free this fox, she is going to bite and scratch and claw me. But is the pain I have to endure in order to make sure she can take care of her cubs worth them all living? That is very much what it's like to be in a relationship with a traumatized person. You see, you know that they're going to try to hurt you because they're hurting. You know that they're going to bite and scratch and do terrible things to try and make you feel what they feel. And if you have the wherewithal, you can fight past whatever pain they inflict on you, because ultimately the reason why they're injuring you is because they're hurt and they need help.
And I would also imagine that there needs to be some consideration as to how we free this fox. We don't want to yank her out of that trap.
Ooh.
We want to bring her out of that trap and try to preserve that lamb. She might need that.
Yeah.
In her fox lifestyle. So, that's another thing. I think a lot of people misuse the truth in the sense that they're just a little too heavy-handed with it.
Right.
I'm a little too careless. Like there has to be some compassion and some empathy when you apply things to people.
Nice.
I remember we were talking last week, and I was just talking about some emotional stuff I was dealing with, and I'm like, I'm actually at the point where like I'm starting to empathize with people that I feel have hurt me.
Right.
And I'm starting to realize their displays of pain, I'm just collaterally damaged as it's kind of being expressed, but that pain was there and they had to be living with this. And then they had to really get unbearable to the point where they took it out on me and I didn't even do anything to them.
Oh man, dude. Yes. I mean, and I'm going to co-sign everything that you just said right there. First of all, let's start with the first part that you hit on. Understanding how to free the fox from the trap. You can't go in there trying to beat them up with your idea of truth and your idea of justice and all this other thing. Like, you literally have to divorce yourself from your inner sense of justice and look at the situation mechanically. You're like, okay, well, I know that if I approach the fox this way, then they're going to snap and they're going to bite. I know that it's like if I put any sort of pressure on it, then it's going to cause them additional pain. But even removing the teeth from the now broken leg or the wound is going to be painful, but it's essential. So your mind, it shifts from focus to balance. It shifts from justice to balance. It shifts from what you think is right and wrong in terms of morality to a very mechanical way of approaching it, which goes into your point where you have to be conscientious, you have to be cognizant of how you're approaching this particular thing. See, you can't, and this is something that I talk about often, you can't have it in your mind that, you can't carry a strong sense of justice in you, because if you have a strong sense of justice, I scratch you, and the first thing you want to do is scratch me back. That's fair. But if you're dealing with something that's wounded, you have to think in your higher mind. You have to think in your higher self. And you're like, okay, yes, you wounded me, and I can't take too much damage. But I understand why you wounded me. Let's get to the point. Let's get to the point of what's causing you pain so that we can get you good again.
Such compassion.
At a certain point, if you want to help in this situation, if you care about the pups and you care about the fox, you're going to have to take a little bit of damage. So, and you also know that it's like even removing this trap from her paw, it's going to hurt, but it's essential. So you're going to have to do it. Go for it.
This is why I'm starting to connect the dots here. You're saying that it's very important to divorce yourself from the inner sense of justice in your own story. That tells me a person has to go from subjective to objectivity. And that allows us to not take things personally. When we decide we don't take anything personally in a situation, there goes that knee-jerk reflex to try to right the wrong or get some justice. It's so important to say, okay, this has nothing to do with me. I won't take it personal. And you go to your higher self and you exercise more of the godly qualities, compassion, love, empathy, humanity. And you give that to that person because, you know what, I'm taking my mind out of the situation. I'm not going to interpret it as it's directed toward me.
Taking me out of the situation.
I'm taking me out. And my ego.
Which is the divorce of narcissism. When you get rid of narcissism, competition, and aggression, and just think about these things as triune. Narcissism, competition, and aggression. If somebody scratches you, you have to scratch them back. That's competitive.
Yeah.
You have to beat them in the scratch. If somebody bites you, then it's like, you get anger. And then it's like you sit here and you're like, okay, well, it's like the fox is doing the fox. Why is the fox more important than me? Why should I have to take hits? And all this other, that's narcissism.
The overt subjectivity of it all, the ego hijacking perspective. When you divorce that, sweep that out of the way. Let the heart come in and be human and love and give compassion. Let the heart be as strong as it knows how to be, as strong as it can be. Connect, Wouldn't you want someone to do the same thing to you? Wouldn't you want someone to treat you in that way if you were in that situation?
Y'all see why I brought her back in? Fire! Yes. Oh, we got some comments. Oh no. What's good with y'all people? How y'all out there doing tonight? Miss Sarah Iverson, this is how I feel about romance with men in general. You know what? And first of all, let's address what you just said there. You know what? I'm agree with you. And it's not just men in general. It's not just men in general. It's people in general. Through the domestication process, through the socialization process, we are trained. We're not just trained. We're traumatized. So you're dealing with all these traumatized people running around here, trying to, terribly afraid of losing power, of losing the moral high ground of being right, of losing toxic relationships, of losing power in any way, shape, or form. You have all these people running around afraid to lose power, and it creates a power vacuum.
Self-fulfilling prophecy on top of it.
Touche.
You know, if you're running around so afraid of losing something, I almost feel like you're invariably attracting that loss. Oh. You're operating in a disempowered mindset. So it's like, what do you expect?
Right. Touche. Let me see. Brother Nate Hansen, love the fox analogy. I appreciate you. Brother, I'm sorry the word. I will never get tired of saying that. Don't judge me.
It's the highlight of my day.
It is the highlight. It's the highlight of my day too. Strong J.
Strong J.
Strong J. Okay, let me see. It's difficult to be honest about some forms of pain being necessary to deal with and heal from trauma. Dude, you just say you always on time. You're always on time, and that's exactly how it is. The reason why I stress honesty and bravery so much is because they're mutually inclusive things. Of all the traumas that I've been through during my enlightenment phase, where I had everything stripped away from me, and I was forced to go to enemies for help and to sleep on people's floors, and I had all my material possessions stripped away from me, and I had the identity of Donald King. The identity of Donald King burns to a cinder before me. And as I stood in the flame of truth and let everything that wasn't real get burned away by reality itself, is one of the most painful experiences in all my life. But you know what it taught me? That at the end of the day, honesty and bravery are all that's needed in order for you to press forward in life. And I know that a lot of times we come across things that are they seem too much to bear. And if you're anything like I was, or if anyone is anything like I was back in the day, when you face things that are scary, you want to retreat into the identity and you chest thump and you stand in the mirror and self-idealize. Look at my muscles. People like me. I'm special. I'm smart. And people like me. And that's an easy way to avoid dealing with real shit.
You'll die on that hill.
Goddamn.
Do not build fortresses to protect yourself. Isolation now becomes a danger. It is difficult to be honest with other people, but what choice do you have? You have to find someone that it's okay to be sad around.
Right.
It's okay.
Right.
In that case, it becomes more important to make quality bonds because we do need each other. Humans are social.
Right.
You know, no man's an island. No woman's an island. I'm only one person. I see things in my limited way. There's always more than one way to look at something. Mm-hmm. What would I do if I was just trapped in my own perspective? How could I really find my way out of this disempowered, pain-oriented, very defensive thinking if somebody doesn't say, hey, it's okay. Right. You're going to be okay.
Right.
You know, like, I saw something on TikTok of all places. I love TikTok, first of all.
Okay, touche. I'm not indulged, but you have to let me know.
Watch it.
Let me know.
But there was a clip. I know you're familiar with the love languages and all this. So you spoke about validation earlier.
Okay.
So love languages are, I guess, in a sense, ways we feel validation of the other's love. Like if I'm running on a tank of gas and you're running on a tank of gas, what actions could I do to make your tank full and top you off? Vice versa. And they were saying that this particular video clip was saying your love language, the exact opposite is what you do when you feel like broken or like traumatized. Like, for instance, if my love language is words of affirmation, which means I like to be built up with praise and compliments and acknowledgments of efforts and things like that, like verbal encouragement. What do I do when I'm traumatized? I beat myself up with negative self-talk. It was crazy. If people generally get fulfilled from quality time with other people, what do they do when they're upset? Go alone and retreat. You know, it's like we end up creating so many scenarios where we're just disempowered and hurt all on our own. We just have to kind of start to be honest, brave, use a voice, ask, communicate, connect. That's kind of like if there's anything I want to say to anybody is to open up and just ask for what you need. It's there. It's there.
So well said. Sister Elizabeth Sorrell, we love you too. And yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna validate everything that you just said there. That's fire. Honesty takes bravery, and telling people what you need. And let's just start with telling people what you need. It takes bravery. We're taught we're conditioned to believe that we're supposed to project this image of self-sufficiency to others. And we go around, again, sort of poking our chest out and pretending we're okay a lot of times when we're not. And, you know, through the course of the day and through the course of the weeks and through the years, all this not okay that we keep storing and packing into the closet behind us, it becomes disempowering, and it becomes this vault of trauma that we bring to people in every new situation we encounter and walk into.
Just like that house you were in.
Yeah, it's just like that house I was in. I keep going back to this point where me and my brother Adrian, we cleared out this hoarder house, and it was a 2-bedroom house. 2-bedroom house with a basement, and we removed close to 7 tons worth of junk. And it's so funny because when I was talking to him, what I'd mentioned was, I said the only thing this place reminds me of is sadness. You have 2 people living in here who have completely different lives, completely separate lives, who instead of filling this space with love, chose to fill it with artifacts and identity enhancers instead.
Fear.
That is the fear of being vulnerable. It's the fear of truly opening up. It's the fear of shirking the social identity towards becoming an authentic person. It's a lot.
Fear of loss.
It is the fear of loss, indeed. The fear of loss, indeed. Let's see. Sister Sarah comes in. This is awesome, you guys. The openness in chemistry is great. Thank you kindly. Thank you kindly. It is. A couple of people again have come to me and said, "Oh my God, the chemistry was great." And I was sitting here and I was like, "Okay, I'm a good straight man. She's going to be the comedic relief." Identity enhancers, well put. Thank you, Sister Elizabeth. You know what? I'm doing what I can to be authentic. But yo, it's fire, man. So, you know, this is one of the things that we wanted to touch on. You know, again, the point that my brother had made was separation and anxiety, but separation and anxiety is just is still under, it falls under the banner of trauma. When you are afraid of being disempowered because someone is removed from your situation and your ability to impose will onto the world, when you're so afraid of being disempowered that you create needless suffering for yourself, how are you not creating additional trauma? These are things that need to be addressed. You need to see where, why, and how these sorts of events have impacted you and continue to wear upon you towards skewing your apperception and your ability to interact with others freely and openly in reality. Trauma, you know the worst thing that trauma does to people? Trauma causes people to choose dishonesty and deep social acting over authenticity. Again, honesty is the individual's will and effort to recognize, sync up with, and or be in sync with reality. And if you're not in sync with reality, then you're lost in a delusion. You're lost in psychosis. Trauma makes you psychotic. We need to heal the mind, people. We need to heal the mind. So one of the other points that I wanted to get on, again, I told you all these points were intertwined. My brother was talking about his experience in meeting and talking to God. And hopefully he's dialed into this one, but if not, I'll tag him after the fact. But, he said he's met God and he speaks with God on a regular basis and whatnot. God talks to him, right? Now, before I became this thing I purport to be, before I became an avatar, I was of the materialist view. I'm like, if it's real, it can be measured. That was my thought at the time. Mr. Science, exactly. And then all of a sudden, I become this thing, and I've fucking astral projected throughout the body of the universe. I've been outside the universe. I've been to parts of deep space where it's sky blue. And I'm not talking about from inside of a nebula. I'm talking about it's sky blue. It completely destroys our theories of how light works. You know what I'm saying? I mean, like, shit works like that in our limited realm of influence and our scopes of consideration and whatnot. But it's like you have places in the universe where the space, the firmament itself is sky blue. I've been to areas where there's physical light. It's the dumbest shit I've ever seen in my entire life. So you can't see it because it doesn't project outward. But if you sort of pass through it, you can go, if you have to pass through it back and forth fairly quickly. But it's like you can actually cut it with your hand. It's light, but it's physical. And the only question you have are how? How? And it destroys all of our little theories about how shit works in not just in reality, but in the universe. Like how it works on this side of the universe, it doesn't work how it works on the other side of the universe. And I'm not trying to sell you on any of the things that I'm talking about. But the reason why I'm mentioning this is because people talk to me about their experiences meeting God. Now, beforehand, if you had told me, oh, I talk to God, oh, I see things that, God talks to me and all these other things, I'm like, man, you fucking luncheon, dog, you wild, whatever. And it's like I would have easily dismissed it, but I've already been to heaven. I've stood before the entity that I refer to as, or that I recognize or understand to be as God. I've stood before it. And on the other side of existence, in the principal realm, the rules of physicality don't apply. So I was literally in 6 to 7 locations at the exact same time while dealing with this thing that I was part of its body, but it was somehow still off to the front of me and towards the left. The reason why I mention all of this is simply this. If God talks to you and it's not telling you to do parasitic things, it's not telling you to do corrupt things, it's not telling you that it's not reinforcing your narcissism, oh, I'm great, I'm better than everyone else. It's not reinforcing your competitive spirit, kill everyone, they're out to get you. It's not reinforcing your aggression. If you're talking to God and God is giving you deep insights and giving you ways to make sense of the world, as a person who was a former atheist, getting transported to heaven when I didn't believe in such things, who the fuck am I to say it's not real? If I went to my former self and explained to me the things that I've experienced since my enlightenment phase, my former self would laugh me to death. You're fucking crazy, Donald King. You're wild. Now that I'm on this side of the fence, and now that I see that everything can't be measured, which in itself is a ridiculous notion. I mean, our instruments are only this big. Reality has no limit. How the fuck can instruments this big? It's like taking a ruler and saying, like, to the size of this room, a ruler this big to the size of this room. Okay, hey, measure these blinds. And you're sitting here and you're like, you don't have the scope. You don't have the breadth or the depth. You don't have this. You don't have the ability to measure something that performs well beyond your abilities for measure. So when you talk to God, as long as God is not steering you towards the path of corruption and telling you that it's your place to judge and punish others, or that you're superior to others, or that somehow you are more deserving than others of inclusions and degrees of freedoms and opportunities and rewards, then, and if it's steering you towards becoming a better person, I say listen to it. If it's steering you towards becoming a better individual, it doesn't hurt to investigate.
Mm-hmm.
What you got?
I'm just thinking back to when I first started to talk to you,
Okay.
and you opened up to me about your experience,
Mm-hmm.
Your enlightenment, and you were like, you don't have to believe me, and I'm like, I don't necessarily disbelieve you. Like, it's impossible for me to say what didn't happen to you.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing you said sounded so crazy that it didn't seem like it could happen. I mean, just because it hasn't happened to me or I'm not familiar with anything like that, I can honestly sense by the way you describe things, like, I'm not a lie detector, but it comes across. It comes across. And then, like, just the levels of the things you speak about, these things check out for me. Just,
Strange. I try to be honest. I love it when honest people recognize honesty in me. Thank you kindly. Here's the beautiful thing, people. At the end of the day, when you are truly honest people catch your vibe. They're like, yo. And if I could be so crass, when you come across a person who's a bullshit detector, who's expert in detecting bullshit, I would say that you're an excellent bullshit detector. Am I wrong?
I think I'm a pretty hard person to lie to.
Pretty hard person to lie to. I look for people like that to poke holes in what I'm saying, because I don't believe me. I don't believe me. At the end of the day, if it doesn't stand up to reality, if it doesn't stand up to scrutiny, if it's not consistent with reality and can't be verified from outside my own experience and my own realm of experience and my respective feelings and beliefs, then it's bullshit. So I look for people who are solid to poke holes in what I'm saying, and when they can't, then I'm like, yo, I fuck with you. I like you. Thank you for being so solid that I can use you to test myself against.
You know something though? Like, I do ask appropriate questions as I'm learning things. I don't generally go into a conversation with people using inquiries to try to poke holes. I just want to understand. I want to comprehend. I'm not the judge, I don't really give a fuck. But it's like, my whole thing is like, if I'm going to have a conversation with you and put my mental attention here,
right,
then what's my motivation? I certainly am not like, aha,
right,
I got you.
Yeah.
I want to know. I want to get to know you. I'm interested. I'm learning.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
I'm curious.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking to comprehend. I'm looking to understand and get to know you.
I'm so glad that you mentioned that, and I want to make that clarification there, and I'm glad that you made that distinction too. At the end of the day, I love scrutiny. I love for people to try and poke holes in what I'm saying, but at the end of the day, I'm more interested in finding people who desire to understand things properly than I am finding skeptics. And it's for this reason. At the end of the day, a person who is trying to understand things is looking at both sides. A person who is only trying to poke holes in what you're saying is only searching for logical inconsistencies. When you're trying to use connective reasoning and you're trying to see how everything fits and flows together, pardon me, you can't be focused exclusively on where things fall apart. So in that sense, you're already biased. Thank you. That's exactly what you said. Exactly where I was going with it.
And this is why people who want to argue with you on Facebook don't really get too far.
Yeah, they don't.
Always come out with their angle, and it's like,
yeah,
okay.
I chop them down like I'm like Bruce Lee. Yeah, yeah. They sit here. They're like, Donald King, I'm gonna beat you with my antipathy. I'm gonna hit you with my aggress. And I'm sitting here like. And it's like that Caleb City video where he's sitting here like, chill, stop, and they're like, they're trying to transfer all that.
A skeptic is a competitive person, and it's very passive aggressive.
God damn
it! No one
it!
has time for that.
She's better than me, y'all. I admit it. She's better than me. I admit that. We got some more comments. What? Okay, let me see. So let me see. Ooh, man, we had quite a few comments. Ooh. Sister Elizabeth Sorrow, wow, okay, heaven is beyond anything you can comprehend. Dude, I honestly, I've been to the other realm, and again, I'm not trying to sell anybody on that. It is what it is, but you know, it's like ultimately something that is cool about truth is that time ultimately tells. So the coolest thing about truth is, regardless of what you feel or believe, in the end, truth is gonna win. So everybody will see in the end, like, oh shit, yeah, I guess that is how it is. So, let me see. God humbles the fuck out of you. Yes, it does. God humbled me immensely. I got dragged through these streets, and God was like, are you humble yet? And I'm like, you're not the master of me. Okay, cool. Hey, keep living it, Donald King. You feel this pain. In your face. In your face. Let me see, brother. Daniel Bueller, powerful. Hey, we appreciate you for tuning in. Whatever you can hear, see, taste, touch. Let me see. I'm reading out of context. Whatever you can see, hear, touch, taste, or imagine, heaven is greater. You know what? I will agree. I will agree with that, Sister Elizabeth. When I was over there, the only thing that I experienced was pure bliss. It was like the arc of an orgasm. But very non-sensual. And it was like reverberating throughout my entire body. Like I was, okay, so I could see you over there. There are no partitions. And the reason why I'm able to explain things the way that I do is because the elements of that space, it came back with me. You can see everything in principles. When you see everything in principles, it's like there are no barriers, there are no partitions, there's no physicality, so you can literally see through everything. You can see the mechanism of everything. And when I was over there, and you can't even call it sight. There's no knowledge in heaven. You're only imbued with understanding. And it's like and they did a pretty decent job of capturing it in Full Metal Alchemist. Like you're just there and you understand everything. There's no knowledge. There's just pure understanding and no barriers. You can't hide anything in your mind. There are no secrets. There's no identity. There are no any of the effects that we use to keep ourselves safe over here. None of those things exist. None of those things exist. And you have to come to terms with the fact that they are artificial to begin with. At least that was my experience.
And if what you're describing lends to the feeling of bliss, then that kind of maybe clues some of us in on how to discard some of the bullshit. Might make you feel better.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I'm telling you this right now. I was so Donald King. You don't understand. It's like, I'm a genius. I'm a chef. I'm a musician. I'm this. And in reality, it's like, oh, word? You all those things? Well, guess what? You had a cheat sheet this entire time. That's the reason why you can do everything you can do. And I'm like, nuh-uh. And it's like, in reality, it was like, oh, word? And check this out. You had a cheat sheet, and this is the only thing you did with it. And all of a sudden, you're like, oh, my pride.
You felt it right there.
Genius. You realize it's like all the time you think you're a genius, and it's like God is saying to you in no unspecific terms. It's like, wow, you're such a genius, huh? You're a real genius, huh? Wow, you're real smart. So you had a cheat sheet to reality in the entire time. And if you were a genius, you mean to tell me this is all the fuck you could do with it? And I'm like, oh, my pride, my pain. Oh, it hurts so bad. So I'm sitting here and it's like imagine you were from the Marvel comic universe. Imagine you were Doctor Strange, and the only thing you had been doing as Doctor Strange was like sort of doing bar tricks to impress chicks, and you sitting here like, God damn. You mean it's like I had universe leveling magic power, and the only thing I did was parlor tricks for attention. And it really chops down your idea of how much of a genius you are. You're like, yeah, I'm not a genius. God damn. Let me see. Sarah Iverson comes in. Heaven is here and now. Make the most of it. Heaven always is. Heaven, as I understand it, is it's the material realm. It's the principal realm. What exists opposite of the material realm, and I've already been to the principal realm, so it's the place from whence, let's say, potential takes all of the routing and refractive and sort of reflective paths towards becoming energy, which is kind of like the firmament from which all structural building blocks that we know of emerge from, if that makes any sort of sense. So what's on the other side of the material realm is the principal realm, and that is what humans properly refer to as heaven. And already been there, done that, and got the t-shirt, or can sew a t-shirt. I'm not psychic, I can see the future. Let me see. Unless hell is your here and now. Hell is the principal realm of a parasitic twin universe burrowing into the body of this planet, and I've covered this in previous topics, but I'll get back to it again in a few episodes. Let me see. Brother Daniel Bueller comes in. Either way, make the most of it. Yes, I won't say make the most of it in an exploitive way. I will say make the most of it in terms of trying to become the very best person that you can, because this is not the final stop. Something existed before you entered this world, and something will exist beyond you exiting the mortal coil. Make the most of trying to refine who, how, and what you are while you're in the flesh, because once you're out of the flesh, changing your energy signature is exponentially harder to do. Let me see. Sarah Iverson comes in. Take control of your life, eliminate the negativity, and focus on yourself, and life is heaven. I kind of like that. I'll say I don't know if you can take control of your life. I would say surrender to reality. Surrender to the fact that you are not in control, and instead of trying to fix everything with control, I would suggest learning how to adapt to and assimilate into the system of things that existed prior to you and will exist mutually independent of you, and that has nothing to do with society. Reality, nature, natural organization, this system existed before humanity and before our egos, and well, figure out how to attune to
to it.
Oh no, we're back here. So let me see. Are we here?
We're still here.
We're still here. Okay.
Cool.
Can y'all hear?
I think we're still okay.
All right. Hey, here's what I need. Okay, let me see. Pause. Okay, it's coming back in. Guys, do me a favor. Somebody type a comment. Let me see. Submit. Ha 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 is the last thing that shows up. All right. Hey, here's what I need. Okay, let me see. Pause. Okay, it's coming back in. Guys, do me. Candace came in. Ha ha ha. All right. So we ran into some technical delays. Apparently, my laptop wanted to do the most. It was like, you're racist, Donald King. We don't like you. But apparently, we recovered well enough. So. Yeah, you know what, and... Do you
know how I feel about that comment, which was really cool?
What's that?
Made? I look at, it's so weird. I think in like these visuals. I think about God putting us in this big field as flowers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm just a Candace flower.
Okay.
My job is to be that flower,
Mm-hmm.
receive the light, get my nutrients, grow, bloom, and not, try to take from somebody else, or I'm supposed to be a part of a whole.
Thank you. And that's a perfect analogy.
And I respect your sovereignty and what you're here for, and your part is the whole.
Exactly. We are all part of a system. We are all part of a body. And this is the one thing that I would love to sort of use to piggyback on what you said with, is that at the end of the day, we're part of a system. If we focus exclusively on ourselves, we lose sight of the system. You can't have you can have a system full of selfish agents, because if you do, then in the end, everything suffers as a result of no one paying attention to the system of interactions and everyone focusing on themselves instead.
And the thing about it, how could you really be so focused on yourself and then go into a relationship and think that relationship is going to... We thrive off relationships. We're designed. We crave them. We naturally seek them. So if that's your default, is I'm just going to worry about me, focus on myself, you already know how that's going to end when it comes to relationships, friendships, things like that.
What she said. I told y'all she better than me. Your tone is what you need to work on, your tone. Anyway. But yeah, hey, let's get back to some of these comments. Let me see.
Are at Daniel's comment, right underneath Sarah's.
Okay, right underneath Sarah's. So Daniel says, amen. Amen to you, brother. Love. Strange. We're happy to have you here. People today assume curiosity and genuine kindness are suspicious. Sarah, you're dead on. It's like at the end of the day, you have to be able to press forward. You have to be able to, and I would say it like this, you have to be able to shirk the social identity and the fear of social consequences towards finding and syncing up with reality. At the end of the day, you have to become curious. You have to pursue truth. And I will say this simple point right here. The difference between pursuing truth and defending belief is this. When you're defending belief, you stop at what's convenient. When you're pursuing truth, you go until you can go no further. Curiosity carries you towards truth. Narcissism makes you settle on belief. Narcissism makes you settle on belief.
Delusional.
It makes you delusional. It makes you divorced from reality. It makes you psychotic. You know what I'm saying? Let me see. Brother Daniel, you love us both. We love you too.
Love you too.
Brother, my man. Sister Elizabeth in the house.
All the hearts.
Big hearts for you. Let me see. Beyond words. Hey.
I received that.
We love you, man. Brother, I'm sorry, the word is back.
Assert the word.
We got to get you here, man. Let me see. Every time I hear conversations about heaven, the memory starts making me produce chemicals. I owe you and the Avatar perspective for pointing me in the direction to hopefully head back there whenever I'm done over here. Yes. And it's like, first of all, I love you, man. I fucking love you. You're dope. You're dope.
You are dope.
I'll tell you this. Only strong people can stomach me. Only brave and honest people can tolerate being in my presence without trying to force their narrative onto me, without trying to make me conform to their inner story. You have to be very settled in reality in order to be in the presence of someone who challenges your view of reality and then makes you question it yourself. That is a testament to you, my brother, not me. And the beautiful part about truth is this. You can only receive it if it's truth already in you. Like truth is only acceptable to those who already carry truth within them. So you already know the love is big, it's real. You're my guy. Let me see. Sister Elizabeth comes in. Yeah, man. You know all the answers are in the back of the book and not want to cheat on the exam. All right. True story. Hey, you know what I'm saying? There's so much truth. Hey, you wouldn't be here. You couldn't stomach it if it wasn't in you too. So strange.
You give the truth a place to land.
Right. That's what,
you have to just make space. Let the truth be the seed. Let it take its root and do what it does. But if you just want to be ignorant, that's a whole nother problem.
I gotta jack that from you. You gotta give it the truth a place to land. See what? You see? Y'all see? Man, balance me out. You upstaging me in this motherfucker. Goddamn.
Strong shade.
Hey, let me see. Barn and beat. Okay, very good. Submit, ha ha ha. Candace, ha ha ha. You're back. Yes, Brother Absurd, we are back.
Back like I left my car keys.
Right. So basically, and then there was the final point we want to get to, which was Candace's inquiry.
It's heavy.
So no, go for it. Let me see.
I was just talking to you about talking about like I mentioned on my podcast, which is The Intuitive Introvert. You can find me anywhere you like: Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Cast.
Say that one more time for the people who didn't hear it back. Say that one more time.
The Intuitive Introvert blog. Check me out. So, I was saying we were on our last podcast episode together, which we did Monday after we did the live. Mm-hmm. It was revealed that we both raised in the same religion.
Yep.
And we were speaking about the effects of the religion on making us doubt our own intuition and making us doubt our own alignments and orientations toward truth and understanding. And
I'm gonna close the door real quick.
That's the third member of Destiny's Child, the dog outside. But yeah, we were talking about just our experience in the religion Jehovah's Witnesses.
I'm a shell.
And so I just wanted to kind of broach that topic again because it was so cool, how that was. I mean, I'm sure that's news to some people. We have that thread in common. Our origin stories are very similar.
Right. So we were both raised in Jehovah's Witness faith system, and it's so funny because the gentleman who I answered the question about regarding separation anxiety, he was raised as a Jehovah's Witness as well. So it's I'm having all these J-dubs that we're linking up with, as adults who sort of found our way in life without the faith system there to guide us. Here's the thing. I don't have bad things to say about that religion because without that religion, I couldn't be here. Before I was even born, shortly thereafter, my biological mother, she told me before she passed that, she was out one night confused and she's asking God, how help me find a sign or something to that. And then all of a sudden, Jehovah's Witnesses came to her door. Now, the reason why I mention that is because in order for me to be what I am, there was no other faith system that I could have come up in. I had to be steered, I had to be guided through that particular faith system, which creates a huge irony. Because as many of the things that they did to sort of be repressive and to create traumas within me, psychological deep wounds, so much of what I am, I owe to them and their structure. And it creates a great irony, it does. But, going to Candace's point, how to learn how to trust yourself when the thing you look to give your entire world structure and form and meaning sort of beats you down and makes you subservient and, more importantly, teaches you that you're flawed and that you must look to some authority figure to give you license, not just to be, but to do, and to also have access to God. It's insanely paradoxical. They didn't want to raise people to become sovereign and well-rounded
I love
individuals.
that word. I love that word. I embrace my own sovereignty
Right.
at all times.
They raise us to be slaves.
But you're raised to the instruction, the rhetoric is highly designed to strip you of any sense of sovereignty, of any sense of personal direction. You don't need to think too hard. And tell you exactly what to think. We are the authority.